Catch you later.
See you, mate. John Farnham to open up just for all you boneheads over there is because Jimmy Barnes and John Farnham said they weren't interested in having people like this use their music. That's because Jimmy Barnes and John Farnham stand with the mainstream of Australia. Jimmy Barnes and John Farnham say no to racism. Jimmy Barnes and John Farnham say no to fascism. Jimmy Barnes and John Farnham stand with the rest of the people in this country who actually understand we live in a multicultural society. They actually understand that fascism has no place in our country. So that's what we're doing today. We're opening up with a little bit of a taunt to the so-called master race.
If you don't want war, why don't you go and talk to IS, you dumb fucks? Special needs over Muslim wants! Special needs over Muslim wants! How can we be racist when Islam's not a race, you stupid fucks? Either are you! Either are you!
You're fucking coming from Melbourne.
What do we do? When Muslims are under attack, what do we do?
Racist thing. We don't need a Muslim school here. All kids should be equal. They all should go to school together. No, we don't need it. Melton's only a very small place. Don't need it. The Muslim children, it's got nothing to do with them. They're innocent. All kids should be allowed to interact. It's got nothing to do with Muslim people. It's this ISIS and all that sort of stuff. It's a religious thing. They don't even know what they're on about. They call us racist. I'm Australian, mate. I'm going to get what do you get? Citizenship.
While they're going round and round in circles with their one chant, let's read a few of the signs. One of them says on top of an Aboriginal flag, "It's not yours to reclaim." Make some noise.
And I don't want the school here. I think they should be going to the same school as us so they learn to integrate with the other children so that they can all live our way and not theirs. I feel that they're taking over Australia and that's what they want to do.
What about the other churches who run their own schools? How come? What about them?
Everyone runs their own schools and races, but Islam and the Muslims only want to stick together. They don't want to be part of Australia. They want to take over.
Well, why do you think they want to take over? Why do you believe that?
Why? Because, number one, we can't have anybody in Parliament that is not a voter. Muslims don't vote. Why they're taking over is they take away our Christmas carols, they take away our rights to walk on the street alone because we're too afraid to walk because they're all in groups and they rape and everything for our kids. I've got 2 kids myself personally who I know of, used to go to school by bus, even then was scared, but now they won't go to school by bus. Their mothers have got to drive them because they're scared that they're going to get grabbed and their things are going to be stolen from them and they're going to get raped. I know that happens with every person. I know rape goes on everywhere, but it's a known fact that it's grown since the Muslims started coming here because they believe that women are just a piece of dirt under their feet.
Well, you're talking about a very small minority of Muslims, a tiny minority.
But that tiny minority is ruining it for everybody, isn't it? So they should work with us together.
What's this? Why do you say that Muslims don't vote? How can you? Why do you believe that?
Because that's what I looked into, and I saw that they don't vote. They haven't got the rights to vote. The Islamic ones, you know.
They have to vote. It's compulsory.
Well, how many do vote?
Well, most of them vote because otherwise they'll get fined.
Well, if they do that, well, they're still not allowed in the Parliament. There's a reason why they're not allowed in Parliament, but they are in Parliament. Or is it Australian? No, I'm not sure now either. You've got me thinking about that. But there's a reason why that man that's in Parliament shouldn't be there.
Which man is that?
I don't even know his name. Oh, is that who he is it? I don't know his name. I can never say their names because they're so ridiculous.
We're not trying to be racist or anything. We don't even, we just want them to come to our schools and grow up like Australians do with normal people. Like if they start a Muslim school, there's not going to be Australian kids going to that school, is there? Like it's got nothing to do with racism. We're not racism. Most people hate everyone equally. But we just want everyone to be the same.
But there in Victoria, in Australia, there are Jewish schools, there are Catholic schools, there are Protestant schools.
Yeah, I'm not saying that. I'm just saying Melton doesn't want a Muslim school. If they want to come to Melton and be like Meltonites, why don't they just grow up like everyone else did here in the normal schools? We just don't want a Muslim school in Melton.
I'm fighting for the future of my children. I'm terrified of the world they're going to live in when they're my age. The other thing is I don't want religion of any kind, particularly a violent one like Islam, coming into politics and passing laws in my great country. In a nutshell, that's basically what it is though. If I didn't have children, I may not be here today, but I'm terrified genuinely of the world my kids are going to live in. You know, this is a religion, this is what people don't understand. Half these people over here protesting have never read the Quran, they don't know anything about it. You know, all religion to me is as bad as each other, but people that have actually studied this one, these guys genuinely want to spread out, propagate their religion all over the world, and eventually all our daughters will be married to Muslim men, our sons will become Muslim. It's all over the world, you can see it. You know, you don't have to just listen to me, I'll take my word for it. Do a little bit of history, do your research, don't just watch mainstream news. Actively get the truth and you will see. You'll see this is happening all over the world. It's been taking over in Europe. Europeans can't even go into towns in their own country because it's overrun by Muslim people. Like, I do not want my children ever going through that, and I don't want to go through that either.
Go home and belt your fucking wife, cunt.
Hey, Jolly, you little crumb dog.
You look like a fuckwit. Hey, Dennis, go home and belt your wife, you fucking rat. I know about you, cunt.
Piece of shit you do.
Know all about you. You stupid fucking all about you, Dennis. You fucking belt your wife again. You fucking retard.
Hey, don't worry, Jolly, we're coming to Yarra too, you fuckhead.
Smell Gregson.
Thanks, Mel, for coming down.
Smell it from here.
Smell your filthy traitor stench. You burn another flag, you loser.
Yeah, mums and dads will stand up for their children's right to have a free country.
Does your mum and dad know you're here today? Go Islam, filthy goat-rooting ragheads. Sell their children off at the age of 6. You think that's okay? To root 6-year-old children? Oh, mate, you pigs! You want to defend Islam? It's a disgusting, disgusting satanic cult, but you want to defend it.
Since when was pedophilia cool?
When was it cool to hang out with rock spiders? When was that cool?
Never. Not in my day.
For we are young and free. We're golden soil and well between. Our home is good by sea. Our land abounds in nature's gift of beauty, rich and rare. It is free tax land, every state advance Australia fair. In joyful strings and let us sing, advance Australia fair. Yeah.
We want a special needs school here in Melton. We don't need a mosque. The people need to be put before the mosque. So I'm here to stand up for Australia.
What about the other religions in Australia that are allowed to have their own schools, the Catholics and the Protestants and the Jews?
Talk about that. I'm talking about Islam, not any other religion. All the other religions are peaceful, not like Islam. There's nothing peaceful about it.
What do you want for the future of Australia?
Everybody be equal. Equal rights, equal everything. None of this.
That's what we have at the moment.
No, we don't. Why do they want their own schools? They want their own special Islamic school.
But Catholics have their own schools and Protestants have their own schools and Jewish people have their own schools.
Islamic school only. No other races allowed there. Catholic schools got all races, mate. Don't they? Yeah?
Well, the Jewish schools don't have all races.
Talk about Jewish schools, mate.
Today is all about the mosques. getting built. The Muslims going berserk in overseas, which is going to happen here. It's history repeating itself. World War II, they appeased the Germans, which slaughtered millions that never needed to be slaughtered. And their appeasements to the Muslims is exactly the same thing. All these greenie tree-hugging mongrels over here are actually supporting slaughter, and they're calling us racists. As has been reported, Paris, it will happen here, it's coming, there is absolutely no doubt. So that's what they're supporting. They're allowing these people in to commit atrocities in Australia on our soil, and I won't stand for it.
What about all the Muslims that are already living in Australia and are born here and have been here for over 150 years?
Well, the point is here, with the Muslims that are here, they won't stand up, they won't say no to their own, albeit they can support their religion, they can have their religion, but it's not here in Australia to be, and they don't stand up and straight out and stand up and talk for themselves and tell them that this ain't on, and they keep going about it.
Well, no, most of the Muslim leaders condemn the terrorism of the fanatical tiny percentage of Muslim people that committed around the world. Most of the Australian Muslim leaders,
well, they condemn it. They do not condemn it. They condemn it with one hand and then take it away with the other. And they condemn Australia. They don't like our way of living. Well, they can pack their bags and they can go home.
So, one of the most insidious lies spread by Reclaim Australia and other far-right neo-Nazi groups like the United Patriots Front is that the reason that they're organising against Muslims and against Islam is because they're attempting to stand up for women's rights. Yet, at the same time as they say this, who is it that their members are going out onto the streets and attacking? It's women, and particularly Muslim women in hijabs.
It's sexist.
In the past week, all around the world, the far right have been using the tragedies that happened in Paris and in Beirut and now in Mali in order to organise thugs to go around and attack immigrants, Muslims, refugees, anybody who's not white, essentially. And the people bearing the brunt of these attacks are women. We saw a woman being pushed in front of a moving train simply because she was wearing a hijab. We saw a woman up in Queensland being spat in the face simply because she was a woman wearing a hijab.
Now, we're not denying that these atrocities are committed against women in that place. But what we are doing is challenging the very claim that these people make that they actually stand for women's rights. Now, this is a feminism 101. Policing the behavior and the choices made by Muslim women is not supporting women. It only further demonizes and isolates them. Women of color don't need saviors, they need solidarity. If these people actually cared about women's rights, then they would take part in campaigns on women's issues, like domestic violence, which sees a casualty rate of 1 woman a week dying in this country from intimate partner violence. And on that note, if this many police in this town weren't here, they would actually be able to handle that job. But instead, what we're getting from these groups are rape and death threats against female activists. In fact, if you actually go to their Facebook pages and look at the comments, you see no shortage of misogyny and violent misogyny. And also, like Mel previously said, the majority of people, of Muslim people that get attacked on the streets are women. So today, we're obviously here to stand up against their racism and bigotry, but we're also standing up against their misogyny, because the struggle against racism and the struggle for women's liberation are intrinsically linked. Migrants' rights and refugee rights are feminist issues. Reclaim Australia and the United Patriots Front claim that they're saying something different. They claim that they're challenging the establishment, but they're actually saying the exact same racist things that the government is saying. Both major parties have supported the wars in the Middle East, the bombing of the Middle East, and also support a brutal refugee policy. So we need to build a movement against racism and misogyny, but we also need to build a movement against the 2 major parties that support this system that creates the problem in the first place.
They've had no speakers, We've had so many good speakers. We've had speakers from the refugee community, speakers from the feminist community. We've had speakers from the socialist community. And that's because we're having a far more coherent rally right here, because our ideas are far more coherent and facts tend to have a left-wing bias. This poster here is pretty good. It says concerned citizen according to Channel 7. And then it's got the direct quote, of course, from Blair Cottrell, which says there should be a picture of this man, meaning Adolf Hitler, in every classroom of every school. That's the kind of guy that leads people like this. That's the kind of guy that these people look up to. Like I said, guys, facts have a left-wing bias. It doesn't matter. And notice once again, all they can do is respond to our creativity. All they can do is respond to our ideology. All they can do is respond to our speakers, sneering at us, full of hate, once again, which we already knew. But here we are with so much more to say. We have come here today to continue the movement that has grown around Melbourne and Australia this year against the rise of these far-right neo-Nazi fascist groups. And there's no better place to be right now than Melton. Say it loud, say it clear!
Racists are not welcome here!
Say it loud, say it clear!
Racists are not welcome here!
And he ended up involved in Reclaim Australia, and about a month ago, 2 months ago, he spoke to ABC Radio about his experience. And he said that I didn't realise, this is a guy who did their website, who helped to organise their protests, who met some of their leading members, who worked with them closely, and he says, quote, I didn't realise I was dealing with a neo-Nazi. I feel a little duped and I'd like to apologise to the Muslim community. He was asked whether he felt offended when counter-protests rolled up at Federation Square on April the 4th and were screaming at him and calling him a Nazi. And he says, well, yes, I was a little offended, but I have to admit, in hindsight, I think they were right, and quote, maybe they, the protesters, could see something that I couldn't see at the time.
Trade unions are at the forefront of the fight against fascism, because we know what your politics of hate, of discrimination, of bigotry is all about. It will take us to war, it will take us to pogroms, it will take us to the gas chambers once again.
I'm a teacher and I'm also a producer and presenter at community radio 3CR. 3CR, who, well, according to these people on the other side, I'm a government-funded anarchist from 3CR Community Radio. On the 1st of November, 5 members of this fascist organization, the UPF, entered the premises of Community Radio 3CR in an attempt to intimidate the station and its programmers. Then they posted the video online. That video had been seen by about 9,000 people, 9,000 times. And in the comments of that video, there are some people supporting that action, saying like, well done, boys, deep behind the enemy lines. Or like, yeah, go and get those government-funded anarchists. Or great investigative report. I don't know how just walking through an open door is a great investigative report, but anyway.
Thanks to the tireless work of anti-racist and anti-fascist campaigners like everyone here today, the far right have consistently been defeated when they've attempted to rally in Melbourne City. However, today, like the 2 most recent rallies in Bendigo, they have shown a change of tactic. They're trying to build momentum outside of the city, hijacking local issues in an attempt to capitalise on anti-Islamic sentiment to further their political agendas. It was never about the mosque in Bendigo, and it is definitely not about an Islamic school today in Melton.
Shut up, you brain desk.
As a representative of the counter-campaign in another regional space, I have a message for the Melton locals here today. In our experience, it won't end today. Unless Melton wants to accept a consistent neo-Nazi presence as a feature in your town, you will have to stand against it on a regular basis. Find one another. Look to each other for support and get organised. It's extremely important to challenge this ideology immediately before it grows and is seen as acceptable here. We do it not to defend a particular religion or race, but to defend people. The oppression of people of the Muslim faith is only the beginning. If these nationalists are allowed to continue their path from beginnings as backyard racists to their inevitable goal of some form of power, they will be much more difficult to stop. Every time they are allowed an unopposed platform, they grow. Which side of history do you want to be on? Absolutely creating the conditions.
We're here as students and unionists and socialists to come and kick the fascists off the streets and to defend Muslims and refugees and their rights as ordinary people on this planet, because we are strongest when we're united, and we need to fight the government's attacks on all of the awful things that they're doing, like cutting education, cutting healthcare, cutting welfare.
We want to make sure that everyone understands that these are not concerned mums and dads. These are fascists. These are racists. When have they ever come out and defended their kids against education or anything like that? Obviously, they're just complete racists and don't really care about their kids or anything like that.
Say it loud, say it clear. Say it loud, say it clear. No Nazis. No Nazis. No Nazis. Your mothers still love you. It's okay. Take a long, hard look at yourselves, hiding behind your little Australia flag masks, hiding behind the flag and patriotism, hiding your hate, hiding your racism, hiding your bigotry behind the false claim of patriotism.
I'm concerned about the appropriate level of security and safety at this rally, and I think the best way to achieve security and safety at a rally is a nice tight block of confident people standing shoulder to shoulder. Today's counter rally has already achieved what it needs to achieve. These people cannot march on the streets of Melbourne, on the streets of Melton, on the streets of anywhere without 300 riot police protecting them. They've been shown just how extreme, unwelcome and rejected their views are. Thank you. Thanks. Get away from the copper, man. It's not worth it. Nazis come! Nazis come! Nazis come! Off our streets! Off our streets! Off our streets!
The police decided to just move forward, bring the horses in, attack the anti-racist demonstrators.
Off our streets!
You just hit then?
Yeah, I was, repeatedly, by coppers in the face and the neck. Right, we were just standing there and they came at us. Get the fucking violent fuckers. Fascists are not welcome in Australia, that just as we need to oppose the Nazis in the 1930s to 1940s, that this is what this represents. A new wave of people who are treating Muslims like the Nazis once treated Jews. Right? The same people like Pauline Hanson who were attacking Asians have now moved on to Muslims. I've got to say it stops here, it stops now, and racism is not acceptable, not in Australia, not in France, not anywhere.
Anything in your pockets at all? Or mate, any coins at all?
We will deliberately, in the early days, all used to put different people with different languages and mix the new and traditional world.
Nazi scum! Nazi scum! Nazi scum!
Is attempting to convince people that Muslims are the cause of their economic problems, the reason that they don't have a job, the reason that hospitals get closed down, the reason that the education system is being run into the ground. We know that's not true. We know that Muslims are victims of this system as much as we are, and they're our neighbours and our co-workers. And so we're here to say that Reclaim Australia has no answers and nothing to say about anything.
Work out what they're doing. We don't know what they're doing yet. While we work it out, what we need to do is form up a demonstration as tightly as possible. So people can form up a demonstration around this truck here. If the marshals can get to the outside of the demonstration, and we'll have a quick chat while we figure out what they're doing and figure out what we're going to have to do next.
Racism, no war! No racism, no war!
There's like one line there. Okay, they've all agreed to do their speeches and stuff in the back. Okay, alright, so if you can get a couple of things around the back to shore up that whole side.
Who do you want me to send to go and report to who up there? Who's up there?
Yeah, I'll go.
You are, mate? Do you want to take, you're going to take half the detail? I'll give you half the details. We'll give you 3 details and the other 3 will stay with you.
Yeah, no, you can go in the back with it. If Paul's got this side, I've got the front. Okay. Happy? Alright.
So clear exactly where they're going to goose step. If we can bear with a bit of confusion.
Well, this is Islamic Research and Educational Academy. It's a Muslim organization whose purpose is to do interfaith communication and dialogue with people of all faiths in order to have a better understanding of each other. Because I think it's always the fear of unknown that creates the misunderstandings towards each other. So it's very important to communicate and have a dialogue. And that's one of the chapters of the Quran verses, which says in chapter 3 verse 64, قُلْ يَا أَهْلَ الْكِتَابِ تَعَالُوا إِلَى كَلِمَةٍ سَوَاءٍ بَيْنَنَا وَبَيْنَكُمْ. That say to the people of the book, that is the Jews and the Christians, let's come to commonalities between us and let's have a discussion, a communication between us. So that's the purpose of the formation of this organization.
Okay, speaking of the Quran, what about all the other nasty type things that are in that book?
Sure. So have you just asked that, there are some nasty things as accused by some of the anti-Muslim groups and anti-Islamic organizations? A simple response to that is, if you look at the words itself in a complete context, at the time of its revelation, and the consequence or the response to it, it will clearly give an answer. For example, some people quote chapter 9 verse 5, which says, kill them wherever you find them. And they say, see, this is what Islam is. It's asking people to kill others. But if you read the whole verse, it says, those who have attacked you and are fighting you and have invaded your country, fight them wherever you find them in your land. But do not fight them if they stop fighting you. So this is a very clear verse. For example, in Second World War, when Japan attacked Australia, and if, God forbid, we were going to be invaded by Japanese, I would expect the Australian Prime Minister to tell Australians to fight them and expel them from our land. And that's what exactly Islam, Quran has commanded its followers, to defend their land, to defend its people against the foreign invasions. Ever such a tragic event or an an activity happens like this of a terrorist, like in Paris, immediately we see backlash towards the Muslim community, increase in Islamophobic attacks. There have been individual Muslim women who wear hijab have been attacked, abused, accused on their way home in Australia on the streets. This is quite terrible, and this is another form or the other side of the coin of terrorism. So this is what we Muslims face from time to time. There is always a cry from some people saying Muslims should condemn. Muslims have already condemned. What exactly do you want us to condemn? Muslims have condemned ISIS, Muslims have condemned Al-Qaeda, Muslims have condemned Boko Haram, Muslims have condemned Paris attacks. What else? What do you want us to condemn with? So this continuous cry that Muslims should condemn serves no purpose. We have condemned them time and again, 100 times and 1,000 times. That's not going to stop ISIS or anyone else. We got to look at the causative factors of it. If someone truly wants to find a solution, that is how they have to look into the reasons for the formation of ISIS, who is funding it, how is it running. There was no ISIS 2 years ago, but now it has all come up. So there is a reason for which it has come up, and we all have to work together solving that reason. See, the Australian government's response, I really appreciate the response of Malcolm Turnbull, the new Prime Minister. He has taken a very clear tone. He has said we all Australians have to work together against any threat of terrorism to Australia or anyone else across the globe. I think the first and the most important thing is to have inclusiveness, working together towards an evil that is despoiling or disturbing the peace of the country. So first of all, it's the inclusiveness. Second is everyone has to look after the social aspects, the political aspect, as well the religious aspects. Muslims as a community can only look after the religious aspects, and Muslims are doing much more than they can do together. Now there are social and political aspects that the government should look into, the reasons of the formation of these terrorist organizations. There was no terrorism 15 years ago. Why is all of a sudden there is terrorism happening in our countries or in our streets? The reason is there is a political factor and a social factor along with an aspect of religious factor to it. So all of that has to be looked into, dealt with, and together we have to stand against it.
In the wake of the brutal attacks in Paris, and I think we have to say that refugees should not bear the brunt of that. Of the 7 attackers who've been identified, 6 were from Europe. There was some bad reporting about a Syrian refugee passport, but that is all speculation. The passport could be a fake, it could belong to a victim. It's not clear anyway why people would bring a passport on a suicide mission. But certainly in Australia, there has never been a terrorist attack by people coming, refugees coming from boat, but despite the hysteria that is built up against boat arrivals. It is a dangerous journey, and refugees are under all sorts of scrutiny. That's true in Europe as well. People who wanted to get in would come by more conventional means. We have to avoid letting politicians use refugees to divide us. Jackie Lambie has recently talked about not taking Syrian refugees, or they should have ankle bracelets. This is an obscenity. The current Prime Minister, Malcolm Turnbull, also says that he has a dream, and his last bit of hypocrisy is saying that he's concerned about what's happening on Madison Nauru. Well, if you're concerned, then shut them down. You are the Prime Minister. There have been more people resettled, there have been more people killed on Manus Island, Reza Barati, Hamid, that have been resettled.
Nazi skins, fuck off! Nazi skins, fuck off! Nazi skins, fuck off! Nazi phones, fuck off! Nazi phones, fuck off!
We probably want to push these ones out as well, so we go to the tree. How thin are we going to strip? We need another section to come. Nick, you bring one of your sections up. I got one. Get another one. Get rid of these ones. What do you mean?
then get rid of them.
We'll just push them to the right. They're not with the left. They're just...
And you see it in Australia over and over again. With very few exceptions, they never come out and say, hands up, I'm a Nazi. They say, I belong to a patriotic organisation. I belong to an organisation of ordinary mums and dads, just ordinary people concerned about issues. And I think one of the really good things about anti-fascist rallies like this is that every time we have one, it exposes these people for what they really are. I don't think very many observers will come to a protest like this and see the ranks of swastika-daubed types opposing us and believe they're just ordinary people. They expose themselves as the members of the Nazi death cult that they are. And I think that's really, really important. So much so that one of the things that we need to do after this rally is insist on labelling them as the thing that they are. Don't let them appear in the media described as nationalists, as patriots, as ordinary people. Insist that they're described as fascists and Nazis and terrorists. Insist upon it. Don't let them get away with it. There's lots and lots of information out there detailing all the statements they've made, all the times they've slipped up and let the thin disguise that they have fall away and reveal themselves as fascists and make them wear it. And the other thing that we have to do to make these protests bigger, to make them more effective, is to ensure that we are presenting an alternative. Because how does a death cult grow? What do people who stand for nothing other than violence and discrimination and murder, how do they build? They build out of despair. They build when people see no alternative at all. And that's why it's so important, as well as rallying against them, that we do whatever we can in our communities and in our workplaces to present a positive alternative. So next time we're back here in Melton or wherever else these death cultists try to rally, there's 3 times as many, there's 4 times as many, there's 5 times as many, and we can sweep these people back into the gutters where they belong.
This United Patriots Front came out of the Reclaim Australia as a more explicitly Nazi organisation. They've become something of a rallying point for the Islamophobic sentiments out there. We shouldn't exaggerate how much support they have. I suspect they have very little. There's certainly there's a few hundred of them here, but as yet they haven't been able to mobilise greater numbers than that. Nonetheless, I think we should take them seriously. That this is a climate in which the far right has been growing around the world, and it's not out of the question that these people might manage to build something here in Australia, which is why these rallies, to nip them in the bud, are so important. The problem is with a fascist group like this, when they're speaking, they're not just putting forward an interesting point of view, they are rallying people to hurt minority groups. That's what they do. That's what fascism is about. If you have a look at the kind of ideas that they're putting out in their Facebook page, they are organising people to commit violent acts. So I don't see why we would sit back and allow some criminal who was standing on a street corner ranting about how he was going to commit violent acts, and I don't see that these people are any different than that. Fascism is a criminal ideology. These people are trying to build a criminal organisation, and the more people who rally against them, the better.
It is hard to comprehend that in the 21st century, the international community have been standing back and watching the tragedy in Syria and has failed to even try to help the Syrian people. Rather, they have been contributing to the devastation in one way or another, either by participating in the war or by attempting to make accommodation to the tyrant Bashar al-Assad after all the destruction, the genocide, the crimes against humanity he has and still is committing. The reason that governments of Western powers, driven by their own interests and greed, the whole nation is that they don't want to see Syria achieving democracy. But what hurts more than seeing those governments is to see the bigotry from the normal people.
The campaign against racism and fascism is a united front of various and many groups that have come together while we hold our own particular political positions on many matters. We come together and unite around fighting fascism together. So what unites all of our many groups is the fight against fascism.
Can you tell us about what happened in the United States yesterday?
What's happening in the United States is that similar to here in Australia, the far right is wanting to stop the immigration of refugees from Syria. It's exactly the same fight that we've got here. Yesterday in Olympia, Washington, far-right forces held a rally against the letting in of Syrian refugees, using the vile nationalism and racism that we're familiar with here. There were about 100 of them, but there were far more of those on the other side coming from the community, including unionists in Olympia that were there demanding that refugees from Syria be brought in to open the borders for them. So in Olympia, Washington, they had the same kind of standoff that we are having here today over exactly the same issues.
Overwhelmingly, it's been a very peaceful demonstration. There's been the odd racist who's marched in provocatively into the anti-racist lines to try and provoke people, but by and large it's been a peaceful demonstration, and we've had vastly outnumbered the far right with our anti-racist numbers, and it's been a great day.
And what do you hope today's rally will achieve overall?
Well, if we didn't march here today, they would get wall-to-wall national media coverage blaming Muslims for all the problems we have in Australia. We say it's right for people to be angry about what's going on in Australia, be angry with the government, angry with the Labor and Liberal parties who for the last 30 years have introduced neoliberal policies. But if you think about it, who's brought in HECS? Who's sacking workers? Who's not paying tax? Who's cutting jobs, services, health, education? Who's responsible for the lack of public transport in Melton and futures for the kids of Melton? It's not Muslims, it's corporates, it's the 1% and their compliant politicians. That's our message here today, and to fight them we have to come together, we have to be united, and racist explanations just divide us and play into the hands of the elite.
Why do you believe this anti-Islam nationalist movement has grown so much in 2015 and all these counter-rallies? Because you haven't seen these in Melbourne for years.
Well, obviously there's a small neo-Nazi minority core, but from the point of view of a lot of Australians, they're just fed up with the major parties. They're looking for new ideas, new explanations, and this idea that, you know, it's just racist explanations, blame it on Muslims, it touches on a very, very rich vein of racism in Australia. So if we don't combat the right wing forward for working people, they'll get strong. So I think the reason they got stronger than they should have gone is the lack of a left alternative on a mass basis in Australia. That's something that we have to create now. A mass left-wing alternative here in Australia provides alternative solutions to working people than racism and division.
We have 99.99% be practiced on their goose marching drills by now. Some of their patriotic fervour seems to be ebbing away a little. Their number seems to be dwindling a little. But we want to stay right here for a good while yet to show them that any time they pop their head up out of the sewer from behind some rock, hundreds of people will turn out to say, you are not marching to build your racist fascist movement through these streets. It's really crucial what we're doing here today, and it's really crucial that we keep doing it. Good. Move away from the medic station. Melbourne.
Done the time, done the crime, mate. Yeah, what are you plucking? What's the clapping to yourself?
It's so funny, they have to hide their faces like pussies.
Oh, here we go.
Got the power to be powerful. How long, down the barrel again? Here we go now. You're gonna try to understand it.
I'll keep walking with you. We're here today because of the racist filth on the other side who are currently being protected by the cops of people who are advocating for fascism.
No Nazi! No Nazi!
It'll be fun, mate. I'll make you fucking
frenzy.
They should respect us and our country. And what's your background? Hey, I'm Australian.
They want to come here, they respect our rules, it's fair. They respect our rules, we respect them. We respect their turf over there.
So you don't care about if there's a Muslim school or a Muslim mosque?
No, we don't care about that. Honestly, I don't care.
But as long as they respect our turf,
yeah.
What do you mean by respect your turf? We respect our rules, our turf. It's our Australia's ours. And everyone else that lives in Australia. They need to respect it.
How do they disrespect you?
Look at the stuff they do.
What about the other side?
Give
us an example, like what do they say anything to you?
What do they do around here?
What do they do around here? You could be walking on the streets and they'll just come up to you thinking they're 10 men. They don't know how to respect our turf, so we're going to show them today who's boss. It's simple. I was bred here, and I'm going to stand this turf here. They think it's their road, it's my road.
Do you want Muslims in Melton? No.
No, not in. Why should we after this?
Australia accept it behind our back. Sign them up and let them go in. Why didn't they let the schools with disabled kids in it, but give to them and say no to us?
That's fucking
bullshit. How much did the Shire get paid? What went under the carpet? All lies, lies, lies. Hey, if we go to their country, are we allowed to do this? No, we'll get killed. So why should we accept it in Australia? What happened to Australia? Bush kangaroo, Australia. Thanks. It's bullshit.
If it spins forth, bring it to us. Oh, yeah. I seen you and I'm like, fuck. Yes, I ain't getting back. If it spins forth, bring it to us.
You had to move. You had to move, but you
Please continue.
Thanks to the Korea police, the Nazis are being able to...
Yeah, we'll stop at a pub called Pub.
I think it's been a really good day for anti-racists around Australia. We heard that the racists were outnumbered approximately 2-1 in Adelaide. We heard that the racists were heavily outnumbered by about 500 anti-racists to a much smaller number of racist protesters in Sydney. We told these fuckers, you are not allowed to march. And that's a good thing. We've got to keep on doing that.
Big thanks to No Room for Racism. Make some noise for the organisers. Big thanks to Campaign Against Racism and Fascism. Make some noise for the organisers. These two groups have been instrumental in showing people like this that they do not have the right to meet unchallenged in our society. It has been a huge day, so get behind the banners. You can turn around and stop looking at these goons, and let's have a good march up. Well done. Make some noise. Make some noise.
This is what we're fighting for. No racism, no war. This is what we're fighting for. No racism, no war. This is what we're fighting for. No racism, no war. This is what we're fighting for.
no racism, no war. Make sure we're staying together. Yeah, we are being tracked by racists. Of course, because that's what they do. They use violence and intimidation. They don't want to be in the park at their petty barbecue.
It's supposed to be about the mosque.
Yeah.
No, this is not.
This is in favour of the mosque being built, this particular rally.
Yeah.
What do you think about that?
No good, mate.
Why is that?
We don't know what we're losing them in.
Always was, always will be Aboriginal land. always was, always will be Aboriginal land. You are racist enough! You fucking must! Racist enough! This is what we're fighting for! That's bullshit. 1, 2, walking. Let's get him around the corner. You better release me.
Absolutely sensational effort. I want to congratulate everyone here for joining the campaign against racism and fascism and no room for racism, and showing people like Reclaim Australia and the United Patriots Front what we think of them and what we will and won't tolerate in our society. But bigger than that, I want to congratulate everyone here for the courage that it takes to stand up against their threats of violence, their threats of intimidation, and their threats against our community.
The big thing about today is no guts, no glory. And the Victorian Police have shown a complete lack of courage. Shame! They've shown no courage. They've got weapons, they've got armour, they come up against normal, working class people, and that's what they do. So what we're doing now is showing courage.
Today's rally has been successful. We're able to come here and tell the racists they cannot come here and spread their hatred on our streets. We don't want their hatred on the streets. So we have come here, we have covered the whole of Melton, so it's a successful campaign. So they're not able to come here. They have to move somewhere else and to spread their hatred. We have outnumbered them by 2 to 1, so it's been a successful campaign. We want to live in a society where we're living like brothers and sisters, but not in a society where there's hatred, because when you hate people, you're giving them a hard time. The more people you hate, the more enemies you create. And what happens when you keep on hating people? At the end, you're going to have a fight with the enemies, the people you've been hating. So there's going to be a fight. We don't want to see a fight like the Canal riots happening again. No more Canal riots on our streets. For us to spread love, love is good for people. It brings unity, and for Australia to be a great multicultural country, we need love. We need love in our society. So we want to live together as brothers and sisters.
Keep going. Hold.
So the deal is that our bus is going to come in 10 minutes, and the cops say they will let us get on the bus when the bus comes.
So just listen to this. You're witnessing videos, as you see on this channel.
Okay, so just start with, I've just been released from by the police.
So I've just been released from police custody. They held me for a while. Right, they're alleging that I was involved in riotous behaviour, which is basically a catch-in when they've got really nothing to charge us with. And essentially, riotous behaviour for them is standing up for the rights of Muslim people, for the rights of people against these racist bigots. And so I was arrested. I was in police custody for a while, and then they let me out. They said that I'm likely to receive a fine.
And why do you think the police grabbed you in particular?
It's hard to say, really. It could have just been to grab a couple of us to intimidate protesters. I have been to a few of these anti-racism demonstrations before, and I'll continue to go to these demonstrations and continue to fight for our rights. At this stage, it's not clear.
Today, November 22nd, the far-right anti-Muslim group Reclaim Australia attempted to exploit the tragedy of the bombing in Paris and Beirut and other tragedies that have happened recently and call on people to join their anti-Muslim rally here in Melton, in the outer western suburbs of Melbourne. We called on all anti-racists to join us in a counter-demonstration. We don't believe that neo-Nazis and white supremacists have the right to spread their hate speech on our public streets. And we did very well in terms of we outnumbered them about 3 to 1. So we had about 1,500 people joining the No Room for Racism rally, and there was about 500 people at the Reclaim Australia rally. We managed to drown out a number of their speeches, and we managed to hold our ground on the main street of Melton, and they were forced to march in the opposite direction out of Melton to congregate in some sort of park or something. Then we were able to march through the streets of Melbourne with our message that working people should unite together against racism, against bigotry. We should stand up for our brothers and sisters who are Muslims, who are refugees, or who are immigrants who are bearing the brunt of right-wing movements and their racist ideologies at the moment. So I think we can definitely call this a victory today, but it's not over yet, and we need to get everybody who agrees with what we're doing to stand side by side with us the next time these far-right racist groups attempt to mobilise in the streets.
Fucking talking, aren't you, fuckhead? Come on, I need to catch the bus. I need to get home. Look at you little fuckhead. We can hang around, guys. I love to be on the bus with all you fuckheads. Not one of you's a sport.
I need to catch that bus from you. I really need to catch that.
You're from Melton West, are you?
Fucking hell. Take the mask off.
Tell me, take your mask off.
Had a successful day from a policing and community safety point of view. We've had a protest, about 1,000 people we estimate, about 500 on each side of the protest. We've had several people processed by police. We've had one charged with cruelty to an animal in punching a police horse. We've processed 5 other people for weapons offences and riotous behaviour. We've had no members of the emergency services organisations injured. We've had, I think, 3 members of the public have reported an injury. So all in all, we would say that we were able to keep the peace and successfully facilitate a lawful protest.
How many police were involved in today's operation?
We don't talk about that, but we do say that we had sufficient police for the numbers.
How hard is it to police an event like this, particularly where it's pretty open?
Yeah, it's a challenge. It certainly has its challenge. But we had what we call our subject matter experts, our tacticians, put together plans, and they turned out to be well executed.
How many protesters all up from your guys' count?
I'm sorry?
How many protesters from either side? Did you have a count?
We think there's about 1,000 in total.
And what's happening around the corner in terms of getting people home safely and keeping the groups apart at the bus stop?
So a policing operation has continued. We haven't finished yet. So we're facilitating monitoring of the groups all the way back to their original destinations. So we'll have transit police on the trains. We've got the train stations manned. We've got people at Southern Cross Railway Station. We've got roving patrols around this area to try and make sure that we don't have any sort of spot clashes.
Do
you know how the rallies went across the country? There were rallies in every...
I haven't got any other information, I'm sorry.
Were you disappointed in the behaviour of some protesters that resorted to violence?
Oh yes, well I think any time it's good to get your message across, but try and get it across peacefully. It's always a bit disappointing when you see people turn up with masks, and you wonder what their motives are for doing that. But like I say, we think all in all it was fairly peaceful, and we would regard it as a success.
How would you describe the behaviour, I guess, of those protesters that were at the front of the police line that were pushing the horses?
Well, as I say, one's been charged with assaulting or cruelty to an animal. They're just trying to gain attention. We're here to stop them doing that in relation to clashes with each other, and I think that worked well.
The police used OC spray a few times. Was that because of a certain group moving towards police? Can you describe why it was used?
Yes, OC was deployed near the horses at one stage there when there was the assault on the horse, and at another time where the two opposing sides were in a confrontation, and a police officer deployed OC to keep them apart.
There were a few searches as well. Any weapons seized?
There were some weapons seized, some knives seized, and those people have been processed.
Can you say what side, I guess, of the debate they were from? Which group?
I'm sorry, I can't.
There seemed to be one group over this side, I think they're called the Fighting Fascists, that seemed to be starting a fair bit. Can you talk us through what you were watching with them and what you saw?
Not particularly. Just from an overall policing perspective, we had two groups of people that had opposing sides to this. We had the Reclaim Australia and the No Racist sides of the protest. We managed to keep them apart for the most of the day, and I think everyone would observe that it's been a successful operation.
And then there was those moments when some locals then showed up as well. How does that make your operation difficult when suddenly you've got a third group enters the picture?
Well, I'm not sure that we really had a third group, but we didn't. We had people that weren't necessarily corralled together. That adds another aspect to it.
And a few businesses here were forced to close today. I mean, how does this impact the Melton community?
Well, I think businesses chose to close, so we tried to keep businesses informed of all the information that we had about this planned protest, and some chose to close and others didn't. Clearly that's not a good outcome for Melton if they have to close businesses, and people who might have wanted to use the parks for recreational purposes couldn't do that. But we facilitate free speech and protest, and that's what we've done here today.
Do you think the arrest of the man for the tasers and the mercury during the week sort of gave a message to people who might have been thinking of bringing weapons here today?
Well, I think it did. That was a successful investigation with a good outcome, and it certainly was in the media a lot and would have influenced some people about their actions for today.
I know you don't want to give out numbers, but if you could compare a protest of 1,000 people to other kinds of protests, did this protest require a lot more policing compared to others?
We did have significant police numbers, but it was more to do perhaps with the landscape than the size of the protest.
What do you mean by that?
Sometimes you can use infrastructure that assists you in crowd control. There's obviously in open areas there's less infrastructure, so some of those were considerations.
In terms of tactics, I know that the Reclaim Australia group were meant to meet at Hannah Watts Park, and they ended up just staying at the Melton Town Hall.
Yes.
Did that affect the police operation?
Yes, it did. Yes, that we felt that helped us in keeping a safe environment.
So it worked for the better?
Yes, I think it did.
Any police officers injured?
No.
Is that kind of lucky given some of the scenes we saw? I mean, there were people out there with sticks and they were throwing punches and kicks. I mean, it got pretty violent at some stages.
Yeah, anytime there's a violent situation, it's always a dangerous position for police, but they're well trained. They worked in teams, they backed each other up, and they looked out for all the safety aspects of their actions. It worked well.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.